It's an 18-page ordinance that seeks to put even further restrictions on women who want to travel outside the state for abortion access and any potential providers. And the Amarillo Reproductive Freedom Alliance is speaking out against it. I sat down with them to find out more. Okay, just to get started, let's talk about the petition for Amarillo to be a sanctuary city. What is ARFA's position on that?
Sure. So our position in ARFA is that we are completely against any ordinance coming into our city. The state of Texas already has some of the harshest and most restrictive laws in place with SB 8 and the Heartbeat Act, which have been law since June of 2021. So these ordinances and this kind of initiative seek to duplicate that law and then go beyond it by penalizing those who assist others in traveling out of state for legal abortion services.
I guess on one hand, this is basically saying this is too much government overreach because we've already got the state law outlawing it. Is that what ARFA is saying with this action?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, we saw with the Supreme Court's Brett Kavanaugh say that citizens do have a right to interstate travel when it comes to seeking reproductive health care. And so this definitely seeks to overreach and keep citizens from doing what's best for themselves and their families.
Now, I see with this, there's no exception for rape or incest in these ordinances. What does that say to citizens who say, well, you know, what are we supposed to do in instances like this?
That's a great question. You know, I feel that it adds trauma on top of trauma. If a person is to go through a horrific experience like that and then have to meet barrier upon barrier upon barrier to seek the care they need to terminate a pregnancy, if that's their decision, can also put them in a state of danger, as we've seen with many of the cases. Kate Cox, the big case that's coming forth in the state of Texas with Zarowski.
With a law like this that could turn friends and neighbors against each other, how can this further divide the area and, in some cases, the nation?
Yeah, we definitely do see this ordinance as a dividing factor. I mean, we've already seen that in the city council meetings that we have attended. We have, you know, red shirts versus green shirts, reproductive versus the anti-abortionists, and this hasn't even been part of our law, and we're already seeing a division in our community. So I can only imagine what it is further going to do when people are in difficult situations and can't depend on a neighbor anymore because of their beliefs. I mean, who wants that in their community? This is not what Amarillo is about. We've been very forthcoming about being accepting, loving, and helpful, and this is doing the exact opposite of that.
In the release, it says this is causing many providers to actually leave Texas to practice medicine elsewhere. Talk about the domino effect this would have on women who are seeking health care.
I mean, we are the main provider of health care for the region. And if doctors are continually, women aren't going to have access to the necessary health care for healthy pregnancies. And they're going to have to go outside of town. And that's going to create barriers for low-income families who don't even have access to health care as it is, who aren't going to be able to travel outside of the state to get what they need. Because doctors don't feel safe here under these laws. We saw with the Kate Cox case, that once she did get that ruling from that lower court judge, the government stepped in and said, no, even though your baby is non-viable, has trisomy 18, your future viability for pregnancies is at risk. The state said no, and we saw Ken Paxton come in and threaten the hospitals with felony lawsuits and private civil action lawsuits as well. So we are in a very dire situation when it comes to getting just regular health care as it is. So putting those barriers to not be able to go out of state, it's pretty tragic.
And to add, in addition to that, Texas already has some of the worst maternal health care outcomes in the country. So to add additional layers of lack of clarity for providers on what they can and cannot do, as Courtney said, it will only make those outcomes poorer for women and families.
Now, Brown and London both tell us it's extremely important for folks to educate themselves before they head to the polls or, in this case, sign a petition. They also tell us that no one wants to go through an abortion, but it's important to know one can be done legally and safely in the event it's needed. For more information on ARFA and a link to this full ordinance, head to our website, myhighplains.com.